Is Socorro Colombia safe? Hey, welcome to this video where the goal will be to provide the answer to that question for you based on my 2 months experience living in Socorro, Colombia. Now, I've spent 6 months living in Colombia prior to spending 2 months living in Socorro. So it's been a total of 8 months that I've spent living in the country of Colombia at the time of me making this video. Now, I spent 3 months living in Bogota, or 2 months in Bogota, and 1 month was just into the mountains right in line with the Zona T area in Bogota. So I say it's 3 months in Bogota, but it was on the north end right into the mountains in an area called La Calera. So 2 months in Bogota, 1 month in La Calera, which is right in the north side or the north end of Bogota, right into the mountains. As I said, I also spent 1 month in Medellin and then 2 months in Santa Marta. I've already produced videos for you regarding whether Bogota is safe or Medellin or Santa Marta. You can go check out those videos. You should be able to find them if you want to have more information on Bogota, Medellin, or Santa Marta if you haven't watched them already. For the sake of this video, I'll share with you more about Socorro. Socorro is a small town, about maybe 30 to maybe 40,000 people. Now, I first discovered Socorro because I wanted to come back to Colombia and live more time in this beautiful, amazing country, because when I was in Colombia, those prior 6 months that I was living in Colombia, I had an amazing time. It was like this kind of experience where I wanted to go to Colombia. I was kind of afraid. I did a little bit of research on the internet, and then there was a lot of fear, infested information. And then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna stop doing research and I'm just gonna go to this country because my soul, it felt like my soul was calling me to go to this country. I cannot really explain it other than I felt this energetic pull to go to the country. And from the first moment I landed in Bogota, I felt this peace and just a magical experience all throughout my time living in the country. Now, when I had left the country after being, a whole total duration of 6 months that I've lived in Colombia, I wanted to come back. And so when I, looked for places, I thought maybe I go back to Bogota, maybe I go to Medellin, maybe I go to Santa Marta, maybe I go to Cartagena, which are some of the main kind of places. Even Cali, I consider to go to those, places because they're some of the most maybe popular spots. What happened was I decided to just go on Airbnb and type Colombia, the country, into the search bar, and this is how I found Socorro. And Socorro, as I already said, it's a small town, but what it is, it's not very, let's say, discovered by many tourists. I highly recommend, if you want a smaller town vibe for, let's say, a month to maybe 2 or 3 months at a time, Socorro would be an amazing place to go. If you've ever heard of Bucaramanga, which is another city in Colombia, you could fly into Bucaramanga and then drive to Socorro, maybe a 3-hour drive. You can also fly into Bogota, of course, and then, drive maybe 6-7 hours to get to Socorro. Now, what I did was I flew into Bogota and I ended up getting a bus, and that was the day after I flew into Bogota. I took about a 7-hour bus ride to Socorro. Now, you can get these big giant buses, they're very comfortable, and you have a mountainous drive all the way to get here. Socorro is surrounded by mountains. There's tons of churches here, an insane amount of churches, and the weather is incredible. Now, something I want to share with you about Socorro is that there's not many tourists here. In fact, I think I've maybe seen one person that looked like he was a tourist outside of me. So you are amongst everything pretty much Colombian people. What's interesting though is not so many people, let's say for example here, are from Socorro. Obviously you have people that live here that are from Socorro, but when you look at all the vehicles, let's say you go out for a walk, you look at all the vehicles, 2 out of every 3 or 8 out of every 10 vehicles, I would say, is from another place in Colombia. So you'll see tons of vehicles here with Bogota license plates, or San Gil, or Bucaramanga, or Florida Blanco, or so many different names that I don't even know, different cities and different towns from Colombia. People come here all the time. I'm not quite sure why, to be honest. It's just something that I've noticed. So sometimes when I go out to go to cafes to do work, or when I go out to just go for a walk, I'm looking at all the license plates of the vehicles. And one day I was so amazed, I started counting all the license plates that said Socorro and all the license plate that had some other place from not Socorro. And it ended up being something like 24 to 4. And that was in favor of license plates from other, let's say, places in Colombia, and a whole variety. So this is what I find interesting about this town. When you have the mix of people here, I don't know how many people are actually from Socorro. Of course, you'll have, you know, people that are from here, that are living here, but when I say there's 30 to 40,000 people here, you know, a lot of these people could be people coming through, whether they're spending just, you know, the weekend or a week. I don't know, to be honest. I'm just seeing the cars and counting the license plates, and it's an insane amount of people from other places in Colombia that come here. Based on my little research I did of Socorro, when I first discovered it on Airbnb, I did a little bit of research on it, and it said that it was not a very well-known tourist place. It was what they said, one of the kind of hidden gems that has not really been explored or discovered by many tourists. My hope is that I can help put Socorro on the map a little bit more, because what I find very interesting about this place is it's just wonderful. It's like you have everything here. And if you want a little bit of time and peace and quiet away from the city, then I'd recommend spending at least a month in Socorro. You know, the energy here is great. You have also an area that is a lot of buzz, a lot of things going on, and kind of maybe you could call it the downtown area. Tons of people actually there. There's a market, lots of, you know, people selling goods like fruits, vegetables, meats, etc. It's incredible. You know, it's just an incredible vibe. And you also have, you know, a countryside, like literally if you go into the mountains more, you can rent, you know, places, houses, apartments that are in the mountains, literally surrounded by nature, complete peace and quiet. And of course you can also live amongst the city where there's a little bit of noise. And I say city, but it's more like a town. But it's kind of like it's like a small city. I wouldn't really call it like a small town, you know, it feels more like a very small city. So you definitely still have a little bit of buzz kind of in the downtown area where there's also where there's the market. You know, maybe the downtown area, oh, bless me. The downtown area, they have a church and they have like parks. So they have kind of maybe more of an area where many people congregate in the park, more like, I don't want to call it the tourist area, but it's like, when I say tourist area, most of the people coming here are Colombian people, and you don't have many tourists from other countries coming here, at least not in my experience. And so if you, for example, go to this local kind of downtown area, there's a church, there's parks, people sitting around, you know, just lounging, communicating, connecting with one another, eating ice cream, you know, things of that nature, drinking beer. A lot of beer people drink beer at cafes here, which I find very interesting. They do that all throughout Colombia. I go to the cafe and I drink coffee when most of the people around me drink beer. And it's just very interesting vibe to see people drinking beer at cafes if you're not used to that. So that's a little interesting. But anyway, if you go to kind of a little bit, like it's right next to that kind of downtown area, they have like a market, like I already said, they have lots of vegetables, lots of fruits, lots of meats, lots of vendors selling things, super affordable to buy, you know, fresh produce, and it's incredible. Incredible. You have the mountains, as I already said. I mean, you have spectacular views from so many different parks and so many different church areas. And I mean, if you want to get your church on, this is the place to go to get your church on. Of course, Colombia in general, I find, has quite a bit of churches wherever I've been. But this Socorro place, I mean, this is taking the amount of churches in such a small area. I find it's like another level of churches. Anyways, the other thing is the vibe. It's very like old, like Stone Age type stuff. So lots of brick everything type of thing, and that's kind of interesting. If you've ever been to Bogota, the Candelaria neighborhood reminds me more of Socorro, or Socorro reminds me of the Candelaria neighborhood. The weather honestly is incredible. During the day, for the most part, it's been sunny almost every single day. Right now, as I'm actually filming this video, like literally at the time it's actually raining, it's about 4 or 5 in the afternoon and it's raining, but usually it rains at night. So it usually rains around 10 to 12 or 1 during the night. Usually almost every single day, very consistently, it rains during the night, and during the day it's actually been sunny almost my entire time since I've been here, the 2 months. Now, whether or not the weather is always like that, I don't know, but it's been great the time I've been here. And as far as affordability goes, you know, I've thankfully been able to find an incredible apartment, super affordable. Obviously, I'm not quite sure what hotels are. You know, you can find a few places to rent. There's maybe not tons and tons of options. So, you know, overall, I would say you can, you know, look around, find something here, and you can get incredibly affordable rent, especially if you come to the place and you ask the landlord to see it before you book and you negotiate a rate with them, you can definitely find amazing, great deals for rentals here for an apartment or a house, whatever you prefer. Now, the one thing also I want to cover on the affordability wise is food wise. If you go to restaurants, local restaurants, it's very cheap. You can get a lot of food, like a big meal for 2 to 4 Canadian dollars, sometimes a little bit more depending on where you go. Sometimes it's 5 or 6 Canadian dollars for a meal, but for the most part it's very affordable. Now if you go to, let's say, the most kind of upscale areas, there's a few like more expensive restaurants, you'll pay a little bit more, like maybe $7 or $8 per meal. But if you go local, you can get 2 to 4 Canadian dollars per meal and you can get a lot of food and it's delicious. All right. With that said, we're going to cover the police and military before we finish off this video. The police here, I find, is one of the most probably chill police force I've ever seen anywhere. They just seem to be so relaxed and like it's just, I don't know, they feel very trustworthy, that's what I would say, and not intimidating at all. So that is very interesting. I found that to be, they almost feel like it's like a local vibe, a local community, and they're part of it, and everyone's kind of friendly, and that's kind of what it feels like to me. The military, they do seem to have a military base here. You know, when I go out for runs on the main highway, I would run by this base where there's a military base. I don't know if that's just there for training, I'm not quite sure what they're doing. And from time to time you see a few military personnel drive around, but for the most part, you know, I don't know what they do. You see them here and there. But it seems like most of the time they're at their military base. And again, whether they're training there, I don't know what they're doing. I have no idea. With that said, that pretty much gives you an idea about Socorro Colombia. You know, overall, I feel very safe here. I would say one thing, that if you go to the area where there's the market, where they're selling the fruits, the vegetables, the meat, you know, there's a lot of people there. And it's not like a super upscale area, but you have nothing to be concerned about. You know, you go there especially during the day, it feels very safe, very wonderful. The people are very friendly. And so, you know, I'm not quite sure what goes on there at night. Would I want to be spending a lot of time there by myself late at night? Maybe not, but overall I've even been out like around 10 or 11, and even at 12 I've gone for walks by myself here in Socorro and never any problems with anyone. So I would actually consider Socorro Colombia to be very safe. You know, there's not like tons and tons of activity because there's not like a ton of people compared to big cities, but it can definitely be an amazing vibe that you could probably enjoy for a month to 2. If you're not familiar with Socorro, now hopefully you are. And if you consider coming to Socorro, if you're curious to know if you should, if it's safe, I highly recommend that you do. With that being said, thanks for watching this video. I appreciate you so much. Give this video a thumbs up if you found any value in it. And if you have any thoughts or questions, please comment them in the comments below and I'll respond as quickly as I do see them. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already so that you do not miss future videos that I produce for you, because I'll be sharing more videos with you based on my life experience related to travel and more. And finally, I encourage you to go to the description of this video below right now. Head to the description below and check out all the unique offers that I've put together for you. Keep in mind that every single offer you'll see, there's going to be a link for it. You can click the links and get access to any single offer or any of the offers that you need and or want. And note that if you get access to some of the offers, I will be getting a percentage from any things that you click the links and purchase. So if you purchase anything, I'll be getting a percentage. But I do appreciate you for doing that, because through that way you're supporting me. So thank you so much for your support. I appreciate you. And with that being said, thanks again for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you soon, whenever that may be. Let's go.